conversation with Embracing the Pivot. What is up this morning?
Hello, hello. Are you out in California as well?
I actually am in beautiful New Jersey. So,
so it's not too early for you.
Exactly. And y'all are in California?
No, we're actually in Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Oh, amazing. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
All right. Here we go. We are embracing the pivot. Hi, everybody. So my name is Brooke, and this is Cristin, and we have Studio B in Lafayette, Indiana. And so, yeah, we all just kind of learned a lot in a really short time span this past year. So we would love to share with you what we did. We love learning from other dance studio owners and teachers. And the best way to do that is just share and be open. And, I don't think that we did everything perfect, but I think we did some things really, really great that worked well for us. Mm-hmm. And hopefully anything that we have to share are some things that you guys could take and maybe help you as we move forward, because the world has changed. We're not going to go back to normal. We're going to continue on with a new normal. So we're all learning. But what we did, so during the coronavirus pandemic, I'm proud to say that we were able to pivot our business immediately. So we shifted all 107 of our dance classes, weekly dance classes. We shifted all of those to live virtual classes within 2 weeks. We had 486 students that were now they used to be in the studio, and they were now taking classes via Zoom. And we had over 120 fitness participants that jumped on board and were taking fitness classes virtually. So yeah, it was a big shift. Like, we had a small rudder with our staff, but we turned a big ship, and it was a great thing to do. And the best thing for us is that we felt like, particularly for the kids, that it helped to provide a sense of normalcy during all that, because all the kids they had so much disappointment, and that was the hardest thing, I know, for all of us. We all love children. We wouldn't be doing what we are doing if we didn't love kids and love to help them through their journey. So it was really great to be able to be a place to provide that. And for the adults, we all know as adults that it was difficult and challenging, and we were able to provide a place for them to still think about their health when they were trying to take care of everybody else and take care of their families, and then also just to stay connected to the community. So yeah, that was our pivot,
kind of an overview, and then we just wanted to talk through kind of the steps we took.
Specifics, yeah.
So thankfully, with the way that our schedule works, we are in a college town. We have Purdue University nearby, so we're able to use a lot of college students on our staff. So with that, we actually had planned a spring break that fell right in the time of their spring break, and then our local school corporation's spring breaks. And we have never ever taken spring break off before. But at the beginning of the session, I looked at Brooke and I'm like, let's take some time off. It's always a hassle to find subs for those Purdue students. It's always a scramble. We always get super stressed. Let's just take a spring break. I'm sure people would appreciate that. So we had blocked out 2 weeks in our calendar. And I kid you not, I believe it was March 13th. It was actually my husband's birthday when everything kind of shut down. And March 13th was the start of our spring break. So we were fortunate enough to have a 2-week period kind of built in for our dance classes, where we were not planning on having classes anyway during that time. So that was great for us. With our fitness side of things, we were still planning to have fitness classes live and in person during spring break, but we were able to take a few days to plan out how the fitness was. They were kind of our guinea pigs for how would Zoom work, would the audio issues work itself out, that kind of thing. So we just are very lucky that our timing worked out, because I know for a lot of us, we don't take breaks. Like, we usually never do. It just so happened that our timing worked out in our favor with all of this, which we could have never anticipated. But that's to say, I just wanted to share that because it didn't happen overnight. We were fortunate enough to have that time to kind of sit back, see what other people were doing. Because like Brooke said, we love to share and learn from other studios because we don't have all the answers, like ever. There's always things we can learn and improve. So we were able to kind of watch the dance teacher groups and see what were other people doing. Were there any issues that they were running into that we could kind of work out before we launched our Zoom classes? So moving forward, as you're planning for future sessions, I think what we've learned, what we've taken away from that is it's good to have little pockets of time built in. So again, with our schedule, we run on 2 semesters because of the connection we have to the university and how that impacts our staff. So we have a fall session and a spring session, and then we also have a summer session. But in between all those, we built in time, and we're going to make sure we continue doing that because now we know, you know, if something ever does happen like this again, we want to always make sure that we're able to take a step back and evaluate how things are going and kind of move from there. So that's kind of maybe just a helpful tidbit, instead of putting so much on our calendars like we all love to do. We love to be busy, but some pockets of time can be really, really valuable for that. What else?
Can I brag about you two both first? I'm sorry, we're still working with our
Jerry,
Hi, guys. So Brooke and Cristin, well, they have been my rock at Liberate Artists. So they were literally the first people and the first like organization that I didn't know that supported us completely and believed in our mission for inclusivity and equity for all. As a new organization in the Midwest, because we have Carrie Page here from Allegra, who was like my Connecticut home, and I had Danielle from Legworks, but like the Midwest, we didn't know anybody because we weren't doing any teaching or any work out there. And in Indiana, I came through and I was like, can we do this class? And they believed in what we do at Liberate so much. They were like, sure, we'll give this a try. I'm like, can we do a dance convention here? And they're like, okay. And then from there, they have just become such a crucial part to why we are why we are who we are. Because when I have new ideas and things like that with Brooke and Cristin, I'm always like running things by them because we kind of started at the same time and we've been growing together. And they are such a great resource. And like, we don't all have all the answers. We all know that. But what the work that they've been doing is something that I was like, studio owners need to know, organizations need to know, because they're such a resource. And I'm like, let me know when you start your studio owner training, because I will be there up in there, like, go to this, just because it's such an interesting approach that I feel like it's like we're not experts. This is what worked for us. Let's talk about what might work for you.
Yeah.
And I just also wanted to come in here and say, I have a lot of questions for you that was submitted. So when you get to that, I will be here to ask those questions. Wonderful. Because most of them had asked for them to be anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
So we'll squish maybe all of our typed out notes so we can make sure we get to some of those.
We just got a lot of them.
We don't have all the answers, but we're happy to like discuss.
And we just got a lot of them recently too, which is why it just kind of came in. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Okay, so yeah, like along with what Cristin was saying, having that 2 weeks time, we were able to educate ourselves. So as the studio owner, a big thing for me was what is safe? Like, what can we do? So Cristin was amazing because she was able to take all the dance stuff and make it happen. Like, she's amazing. And so for me, a lot of it was learning about what is this coronavirus? How does it affect us and what we're doing as a studio? So yeah, a lot of
the liability of doing at-home dance classes. Because again, we were combing through dance teacher groups, like what are people facing? How can we make sure we're addressing everything before we get started? And that was a huge question that I saw pop up a lot was, you know, the liability factor.
Right.
And maybe that's a question that's going to be asked, but for us being in Indiana, you know, we reached out to our attorney. We made sure our waiver was
insurance,
covering everything that it needed to cover. So again, like what we did maybe wouldn't work for everybody depending on your location and laws and legalities and stuff like that. But we were fortunate to have time to sort through all that.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was a blessing for sure. And we were able to, as we were learning and making decisions, we were keeping our staff and our customers informed. And that was a huge deal to be able to let people know where we were, like, because as a business, you kind of just go off the map when you have to close down for quarantine, right? So like being able to communicate through technology was a great way for people to understand what we were doing. And so they were hanging on, like we weren't getting questions on a daily basis of what's happening with the classes and when are we going back and what, because we were addressing that, we were staying ahead of it. So we were having virtual meetings and check-ins with our staff just to see how staff was doing and what questions they had, and keeping them up to date of any real-time decisions that we were making, and virtual staff training for Zoom, because we would hop on and have Zoom meetings if one of us was, you know, working from home or whatnot, but we had no idea how to run a dance class using Zoom. So we had to take a crash course and figure that out and then educate our staff. And then also even simple things like, or not simple, but logistics of if you're doing a dance class in your house that is representing our studio, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. You know, please pick up your trash, don't have your laundry on it, like clear out a space, like all of the like down to the nitty gritty specifics of how we do this when we have to just jump right in and there's no prep time essentially. And let's see, communicating with families, again, technology, thank God we have technology, because right now this would all look very different if we didn't. But our website, it's so key for us to have it updated constantly. And if you go to our website, which is studioblafayette.com, we have a band at the top that is, you know, a COVID update, safe studio procedures, and we kept an archive of all of the different updates. So anytime there was a new order from the governor or you know, any information that we had about how we run our studio, we would put a COVID-19 update and date it, so then people could understand and know exactly where we were in our timeline. And Facebook was a huge help, of course. Facebook, on our business page, we would do live videos. Yeah, sometimes, you know, those are not the most fun to do or the easiest thing to do, but they are so helpful, and people feel connected to you when they hear you as a real person talking about what we're going through. And then we have groups, Facebook groups for our dance families, for our fitness friends, and being able to connect with them directly with messages that, you know, pertain to them was a good help. And then of course, Instagram and newsletters, we sent those as well, just to try and keep everyone as informed as possible.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to touch briefly on kind of how we did Zoom. Again, we kind of took inventory of what other people were doing, and we thought, okay, how can we make this work for us? So again, this is what we did. You might be like, that would never work for us, and that's totally cool. So we have 4 studio rooms that we run weekly dance classes and fitness classes in, and it's a very tight schedule. It is a huge puzzle that's like the biggest project that we ever put together each session. It's a labor of love. But anyway, we knew that we needed to keep our schedule consistent for our instructors, for our families, for our students. So we were thinking through, okay, virtually, how do we do that? With Zoom, you know, you can do so many things, but we decided to actually do the paid version of Zoom. So we had the pro account, and we actually purchased 4 of those to have an account for each of our studio rooms. That enabled us to give each instructor the room login. So everybody shared the login so that it was very professional, Studio B branded. Everything was very in line with that. And then we were able to keep all of our classes at their same time on the same day, which I think was really helpful in trying to keep as much normal as possible, because of course nothing was normal. nothing really still is normal, but we were able to provide that normalcy for our families by putting ourselves out there and, you know, purchasing those accounts and figuring out what that actually meant. Just a brief note on scheduling in Zoom, I found that it was really helpful to enter in our weekly classes once, and then I selected it as a recurring meeting. So when we emailed out the link never changed, and we had a password for everything. But that way I didn't have to go in and enter, you know, Monday, March 21st, Jazz 1 with Kelsey, and then the next week do it again. So if you do use Zoom, use that recurring meeting feature, and it will save you so much time. And then you've just got that one link that you can either email out periodically to make sure they have it, or just email at the beginning of the session and say, here's your link, save it in a safe place. Just a little tidbit there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with that, I'll say, I have 2 children. They turned 6 and 8 during the quarantine, which was sad for them. They didn't get to celebrate their birthday with everybody, but hey, we all make things work, you know? So, but I saw firsthand the virtual. I was concerned as a studio owner, how is this going to be? Like, our kids come to a dance studio to take dance class. How is it going to be through a screen on the computer? But my kids were like freaking out, running around, like super big smiles, so happy, so full of joy when they saw their dance teacher on the screen. Like, it gets me a little like emotional right now thinking about, like, it was, you know, after 2 weeks of being at home with them, not knowing what the future held, knowing they weren't going back to school, like all of these crazy things happening, and then to see that moment of joy, it just made it like, it was worth it.
It was worth it.
All the things we were doing, it was worth it. And one thing that we did for all of our families, and again, this is, I know, not popular with everyone, but it was important to me to recognize that families were going through a hard time at this time, whether it was financial or just emotional, mentally, like whatever it is, we were all going through a lot, and we wanted our business to sustain. We knew that if families couldn't afford our tuition and they dropped out,
It'd be the first thing to go.
it would be, of course,
On their
dance
budget.
classes, absolutely. So we made the decision to cut the final tuition payment by 40% so that we were getting enough that we could, you know, keep the lights on. And it was also helping our families and our community. I'm all about helping the community, we are a part of this community, and we have to embrace that, and we have to, I think, be responsible to
Adapt.
people. Adapt, absolutely. So that was something that was important for us to do. And again, we were really fortunate with the way our tuition payments lined up. It just so happened that our final tuition payment was happening in April. And so we were able to make all of that work pretty smoothly on our end and still offer that to our dance families. And then we also did discount the fitness classes a lot because, again, we wanted them to be a part of it. We wanted people to keep going with us, you know.
Yeah, I think too, it's important to note that, again, I was combing through all the dance teacher groups on Facebook. I was like, what are people saying today?
Yeah.
It's important to recognize that some people, you know, acknowledge virtual maybe wouldn't work in their area. Maybe you're in a really rural area, limited Wi-Fi, limited internet. And fortunately, we didn't have that issue.
Right.
We live in a city. A few of our families, I will say, did not have reliable internet at home. So I think we ended up having, I'd say maybe five families that actually chose to just stop taking class because they just couldn't log in. You know, they had no access. But for the most part, giving that 40% discount showed people like, we value you as we value your student and their experience. And even though for us, you know, anytime you give a discount, you're taking a hit, but it really showed in the fact that we only lost a handful of families. And that was due to their, you know, they didn't have internet. And you run into that and you try to make it work, and it, you know, it is what it is for those families. So we're working on what can we do moving forward for people without internet. So we can kind of touch on that later and discuss that. But I wanted to also touch on, again, the timing. So like, I don't mean to brag, like the timing worked out so great for us, but just we have reflected on this, and we were just like, honestly, a little shocked that we made changes at the beginning of, like, in December when we were planning for spring. We made changes that played out so well in our favor. So maybe you can try to implement these in the future, just because they actually were time savers and they made more sense for us anyway, but it worked out so well in this scenario. So for our recital costumes, again, we have 2 separate sessions. We don't measure for costumes, order them in the fall. We actually measure in January. So this year, the first week of classes, we measured every student. We followed up the second week with any absent kids. And then I had all the costumes already picked out. We went with one company this year. We used Revolution Costumes.
Mhm.
They're based in Illinois and we're in Indiana. So super great way to get our costumes really fast. And I was able to just place those orders like by the middle of January. Everything had been ordered. Everybody had paid their fee in January for their costume.
Mhm.
So when all this happened, we had actually already received, I'd say, 3/4 of our costumes before we had to shut down or, go virtual. So a lot of our kids already had their costumes. They had already been paid for. Everything was good there. We did have a few classes that we were still waiting on. Either they were low stock or they weren't in stock quite yet. And when those came in during our virtual session, we actually set up a drive-through costume pickup. So we had people, we used Sign Up Genius, free tool. They picked a time slot, they drove up, we had our masks on, we went out to their car, gave them the costume. It was actually really fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. I would never want to do all this again, but that was like a fun little thing that people really appreciated, that we went that extra step to make sure, at that point, we didn't know what recital would look like. We didn't know if we were coming back in person or not. But they were super appreciative that we made that extra effort to make sure, like, once we got those costumes, we got them right back out to them. So with our recital, we did end up doing a virtual performance. We did not call it a virtual recital because it was not a full-blown recital. And we take a lot of pride in our recitals. We've I remember back, we look at pictures of our first show and we're like, oh my gosh, so cute, little baby recital with like 100 kids on stage. And then now, last year we had 3 full-blown shows full of people, selling out audiences. Like, we love recital. It's like what we live for. So unfortunately we weren't able to make that happen. I know some people have done different types of recitals. And I totally commend anybody that's attempted something like that, because we looked at doing parking lot performance, go to the amphitheater. I mean, it was just so much to try to wrap our brains around while still trying to like teach our weekly classes. So ultimately what we did was, the final week of classes, we just said, hey, you've got your costumes, put on your costumes, do your hair and makeup, make sure you take all your pictures, with your parents and stuff. And then we did a virtual performance. So at the end of each class, we did the routine about 3 times, I'd say, full out with music. We said families come in the room and watch. And a lot of people really appreciated it. Like, again, it was not anything what we intended for a recital to be, but we hadn't charged our recital fee at that point. They had their costumes in hand. We were like, we're just going to make it work. And we did. And again, if you look at like our Instagram or our Facebook, like, people loved taking pictures. It just gave them such like something to look forward to. And I can speak for myself. Like, I'm such a sap. Like, I'll see a puppy or a kitty and like cry, or like old people on Facebook make me cry. And watching my students do their last performance run through in their costumes at their house, like I had a moment where I would hit the end pose with them, and like I had tears, and I was like, I'm sorry guys, like it just it was really rewarding to see all of that. So it was definitely hard. It's definitely not for everybody, but this is what we did, and we loved it.
And it worked well.
It worked well. Oh, and another bonus. So something that Zoom has kind of brought into our realm of what possibilities do we have. We were actually able to partner with Liberate Artists, and we had some guest teachers teaching Zoom classes. So that was something like extra fun that our teen kiddos got to do, because
like exclusive
for our competition kids. Because they missed out on a lot. They missed out on a lot. We were fortunate to do one competition early in January before the shutdown. But after that, they missed out on their whole season essentially. So that was just something really cool. We have this connection with Jerry, and I said, is there any way we can like have Amelia or Eric or Maureen? Like, we just wanted to provide a light, because for a lot of kids it was sad. It was not a fun time, but that was something really extra special. So if you're looking for potential virtual opportunities, absolutely your staff can do it, but you can also like reach out to people like Jerry, like Liberate Artists, who have all those connections, and then like do it virtually. And it's cool. It's a cool little bonus.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So one of the things that I focused on too during all of this was the PPP loan, or any kind of funding, because obviously it was made available and it was worth looking into, and it was something that helped to provide maybe a little bit of security feeling as we're moving through this, because I know a lot of you have to be like me and you were worried about your business, because if you can't pay the bills, you can't keep providing the great service that you're providing. So looking into the PPP, how many of you did do any kind of funding? Did you guys get all that? Good. So for those of you that didn't, you can still get the PPP. There is, they've changed the deadline, and the PPP loan deadline is now August 8th. So if you haven't done that, you still can. There's an opportunity. And when it first came out, there were so many guidelines and restrictions, and like it was a full-time job just trying to figure out how to get the money and how to use the money and all of that. But I recommend that if you can to get that, because the interest rate is so super low that it just provides some security right now when we don't know what's happening in the future. It's, I feel pretty confident that we could have gone through and survived without it, but it's just that extra security. And even right now, we're getting ready to publish our fall schedule, and we don't know who's going to sign up. We know that our maximum capacity of students, the max potential, is far less than what it was last year. So we know already there's not as much potential of revenue coming in. So it's just a little bit of security. So I recommend that you look into that if you haven't.
So really quick, wanted to touch on what we're doing now, because that was what we did during the initial shutdown. I know a lot of places are still very much quarantine lockdown. Here in Indiana, our governor put out a back on track plan, and there were phases. So of course there was no category for dance studios specifically. So we actually followed the gym and fitness category procedures, which allowed us in phase 3 to technically reopen our physical location. So again, we offer dance and fitness. So we were able to relaunch, for lack of a better word, our fitness in-person classes first. So again, they were our guinea pigs. So it's great that we have adults that can be our guinea pigs and, kind of figure out before we get the little ones in here what actually works and what doesn't. So our spring session ended the last week of May. We were still closed throughout most of June. And then we came back in person for fitness classes. I believe June 27th was the day we were allowed to bring people back in. With reopening, we of course have restrictions. So restrictions that we are keeping in place currently during our summer dance session that's going on is we have reduced all of our class capacities by 50%, which is, it's a lot to wrap your brain around. It's hard, but it is necessary. So we've reduced all of our class sizes. We have taped off our floors for social distancing. So in the studio rooms where we have the young students, we actually taped off boxes. And a great resource that I found for that was Discover Dance. She does a lot of helpful resources on her Facebook page. And she actually did a live video showing how she had taped off her floor. She did 4 different colors. There was an inside box for where their feet go, an outside box for how big of a space they were allowed to have. Super helpful, and it has worked wonderfully for our young students. I think it actually helps more. In general, having the different colors for directional guides, having their spot instead of putting a dot on the floor. So I think that's something that we'll actually carry with us for the foreseeable future. We also have a huge change for us was that we went to a drop off. So we have a very nice lobby area. We have free Wi-Fi, and a lot of parents and siblings would come in. some of them would have, their student was in back-to-back classes. They'd bring their dinner, they'd have their computer set up, it was like a whole hangout spot. But we have gone to drop off only, where parents drop their kids off. We have a blocked off area in our parking lot with stanchions. It almost feels a little VIP.
Yeah, we have
kind of like, here's the intro. The
staff member will greet them, open the door for them, and
so just making the best of it. Like we love our community, we love our families that come in, but for everybody's safety, we decided drop off, minimize the number of bodies in the studio. So that is probably something we will carry through again for the foreseeable future. With our lobby being closed, we have offered dance wear sizing appointments because again, we had a summer session planned and like we were able to thankfully make that happen, but we had kids that had outgrown their shoes and people are calling saying, can we come in and get shoes? Can we get a new leotard, whatever? But again, we didn't want just people coming in, where we could have like congregations of people. So we offered, again, Sign Up Genius. It is an awesome free tool where we just gave out times where somebody would be staffed here and they could sign up for their own, VIP shopping appointment. And people thought that was really cool. They'd bring in their dancer and their dancer would feel special because they were the only ones here. So just a little, a way to work around the not so great things that are happening, but we're trying to make it seem, special and make it still work for us and for the business. Couple more things we're doing is we're doing sanitization stations. So as soon as you walk in the door, there's a table, big pump of hand sanitizer. We make sure all the kids do that before they come in class. We have spaced out marks on the floor where they can wait to be called into class. Our employees are wearing masks in and around the building. We're sitting apart right now so we can talk together. But employees are wearing their masks to come in around the common areas. They are taking them off to teach because as we all know, talking and dancing and teaching is quite the aerobic activity. And then they're putting those back on to do dismissal and that sort of thing. And again, we're following the Indiana guidelines. So your state may still be closed down. You may be like, none of this would work for me, but we just wanted to share, like, we took the guidelines that were, published by the government and we said, okay, this is what we have to hold ourselves accountable to. How can we make it work? And that's what we did.
We did. And all of our procedures that we're doing are on our website. So if you want to see specifically what we're doing, and we even took a little video to show, what happens when a dancer comes in, the parent drops off, and we show the kids coming into the studio and we show them going into their square and all that. So please feel free to look at that video. You can borrow anything that you need or want to from that.
And I will be providing, I'm sorry, Brooke. I'm going to be providing direct links to everything Studio B. Like I said, I think you're such a great resource in what you've already done. Also to your talks with parents on Instagram or Facebook Live, I think they're so, like, how you approach it in a way when parents have a lot of questions, but where you're like, we don't have this answer now, but we will, and this is how we're going to follow up and when, and so they know. I thought I always would tune into their lives because I was like just, it's like a masterclass in how to give a live when you don't have answers. Because that's the scary part, right? We don't know. Like, we can't be like, I just don't know. I'm sorry. It's the way that you did it. It was so like hopeful, but still like not confirming anything. But people were, your students and your parents were so responsive to that. I'm just going to send you in, just so you know, studio owners, and teachers, I'm going to send this in a full workup on every single session, and Studio B's will have a full breakdown of everything we talked about today.
Cool. Yay. Yeah. I'm telling you what, talk about sweating through your shirts when I was trying to do those Facebook Lives. Oh my gosh. Because I got to get on there and click, start video, and I have absolutely no answers.
And you don't know what people are going to comment.
No clue what people are going to ask. Like, whoa. That's like, that's tough stuff. But again, people just want to know that you're a real person. And when you say that, look, we don't have all of the answers, but you know what, we're doing X, Y, and Z to figure this out, and we're going to keep you as up to date, as possible. But yeah, it's, Yeah.
I see there's a couple of questions in there.
Just so you all know, I'm sending some questions that we're getting from the group chat. So
Okay.
I'm going to make sure we have time to get to all of those. Just to let y'all know, there's about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I'll answer these questions.
Cool.
and
Go
then
ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
So first question I see on here, have you thought about solutions for students and families who don't have access to internet and how if they don't have access, they're missing from participating? So something that we're doing, and actually to answer another question kind of within the same answer, for fall, sorry, let me backtrack. For the current summer session that we're in, again, we knew how to do Zoom. So we had in-person and Zoom classes going on. That doesn't help people that don't have internet, but we were offering, you know, the option to participate virtually. For the fall, we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to offer 3 different types of class offerings. So we're going to have our in-person classes the way that we normally do with our new guidelines, our class capacity cap. Then we're also going to offer live Zoom classes, but those will be with a teacher Zooming to people from home. So it won't be us live streaming a class that's happening via Zoom. It will be that one-on-one interaction, or, you know, 10-on-1, whatever, that interaction virtually. And then also we're going to do some pre-recorded classes. So we've come up with a plan to do 8 classes as like a class pack. So for example, beginner ballet, we might put together 8 videos that a family could do all at once. They could maybe space it out week by week to pretend it's like a weekly class. For somebody that doesn't have internet, with the pre-recorded classes, we would be able to actually upload those on like a USB or a flash drive. And they would be able, hopefully, to either plug it into a computer, plug it into their TV, because that would be a way without internet access to at least have some type of material. With those pre-recorded classes, we're also going to do for the younger ones crossword puzzles, you know, little games and crafts they can do at home, because we want them to have fun with dance. You know, watching a video is one thing, but we want to make sure they have activities that are kind of also focused on what they're learning in class, and help out parents by giving them some stuff to do while they're at home. So hopefully that might be an option for you. A flash drive, a USB, maybe even put it on a DVD. I don't know. We'd have to get a DVD player or burner, but that could be something where you take the material, you can either distribute it on your website or private YouTube link, but if they don't have internet, I think that would maybe be the way to go, to provide at least some type of material. And those would all be different tuition rates, because they're all 3 different services,
different experiences
that we're offering.
I have some questions too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Cristin. We can.
Okay. A question just popped up. Is there going to be a difference in pricing? So yes, for each of those 3 things, you know, we'll have our in-person tuition the way we normally do, a slightly reduced price for the Zoom classes, because we know from experience that that's a different experience. And then the pre-recorded classes, there'll be less material, because we're going to, you know, recording and uploading takes a long time. So we know from experience, like, we just want to make sure we're able to promise and guarantee, you know, a set number of classes that we can provide. And those will be capped at like 30 minutes. Like, we're not going to record a whole hour-long class to provide for them to do at home, because that's a lot.
Especially for young
and
kids.
attention span wise, they won't do it anyway. So keeping it really nice and condensed. But yes, those will all be different price points. How do we manage dressing rooms? We actually closed our dressing rooms. So we have separate restrooms and a dressing room area. So our restrooms were still obviously accessible if needed, but we put out in our information, we said, please use the restroom before you come. If you need to use the restroom, it is available, but then we would have staff going in there to clean immediately after use. So I haven't really noticed much traffic in the restroom. I think a lot of people are more comfortable going at home with, you know, everything on. So a lot of our students right now are only taking 1 class at a time anyway. So it works for them. Our restrooms are open, but dressing rooms, we just said, come ready. You know, wear your flip-flop slides over your shoes, have your tights and Leo already on, that kind of thing. And so far that's worked.
It has.
So we'll see for fall how if we open the dressing rooms or if we keep them closed.
Right.
Just because of our space, it's a pretty tight area in the dressing room. So we want to make sure that we're being mindful still of social distancing in that way.
And my thought too on that is we haven't discussed this, but we'll probably be a little bit more relaxed on our class attire requirements, because if they can come to the studio with, you know, their leotard, tights and shorts, and then they can just wear that for every class, you know, whether it's hip hop or ballet, like I think we can be a little bit more flexible with the situation.
Along with the difference in pricing for what we're offering, how are you paying teachers for the different types of classes?
So in my opinion, on the back end, there's really, it's probably harder actually to do a Zoom class than it is a live class. And the recording classes, you know, we know that recording a 30-minute time session sometimes takes 30 minutes, sometimes it takes an hour, right? So my gut is that you're teaching a class and you'll be paid the same
rate
for that teacher. Yeah, your teacher rate would be the same no matter what class you're delivering. Like I said, the Zoom I think is harder, and I know that there's a lot of studios out there. It's harder. There's a lot of studio owners out there, and I respect them and I appreciate this very much, but they've said, you know, it's more difficult, it's more challenging, it's more time and effort to deliver a Zoom class. Therefore, the tuition is the same. And I respect that, and I love that they can do that. For us, we believe that the service on the customer end, the experience is different. And that's what we base our rates on. So that rate is different on that end, but for me, I'm still going to pay the instructor that, you know, top rate, whatever that they're receiving. I'm not going to reduce their rate if they're doing a pre-recorded or a Zoom by any means.
And really with that, like, I don't think we anticipate our Zoom classes or our pre-recorded classes like being our hot ticket this time around, because we know, like, the community we've built here and from the feedback we've gotten, like, people are ready to come back.
They are, yeah.
They're a little nervous, you know, things will be different, but they're ready to come back in person. So we know that our potential audience for Zoom and pre-recorded will probably be less, significantly less than our in-person. So it's really more of a show of good faith that we are offering something that they can participate from. We want to include them, but we know that that's going to be a small portion of everything. So it's something we're offering. It's not something I think we're anticipating making a lot of money on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, when you think about the idea of virtual, it's like, oh my gosh, we could have unlimited, essentially, number of students and, you know, unlimited tuition then coming in. But for us, the reality is that it's people like our in-studio experience. So
pricing wise, how much less would your Zoom classes be from your in-studio classes?
So I'm just gonna be really real. I don't have those prices yet. we have been really focused.
Fall is a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. Oh no, I do have the prices.
I think you do. You came up with them literally yesterday.
Literally, yeah. So
I think it's just a slight step down.
It is, yeah. It's not a ton different, but I can get that. I can get that for you.
Well, actually, it'll be updated on our website probably within a week or so, because we're going to start registration here soon.
Right. Yeah.
All right, just to let you all know, it's we have about 5 minutes left, so these questions that are coming in are extraordinary. I just want to make sure that we get all of the questions that were sent directly to Jerry and Liberate Artists taken care of.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's pivot another pivot.
Speed round. Here we go. Hit me.
Guys are so awesome. I just feel like we need more time with you, and we need a conversation about how to, like, I would love to integrate you more into what we do at Phoenix Fire and Focus, just because I think what you have to offer, like, it should be time and obviously bring you in a different way. Like, you're amazing. And you pretty much have answered all of these questions. I think the one, and I think is a good close, is what is the best method? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Sorry, different revenue streams. This is the one that I was asking. Sorry. Sorry. Where did it go? Thank you, internet. You're the best.
Question. We just got one that came in. If you'd like to pivot to that. Are you doing anything to support Black students during the second pandemic that Black students may be experiencing during this time?
That's a great question. Great question. Yeah, that's a little tricky for us because I don't know that we're implementing anything new. Like supporting everyone in our community is something that we do all the time and we have done always. So
I think in our community especially, and I've talked to Jerry about this like directly, like one-on-one, we've had conversations about this. Lafayette is a diverse area, a colorful area in some aspects, but it's prevalently white. But what is great about our studio is we are so open and welcoming, and we've never like gone out and said, oh, if you are a Black dancer, you should be coming to our studio. Or if you are an Asian dancer, you should be coming. Right. They just, because we're such a great community, everybody just kind of gravitates towards that. And I think, you know, Jerry gave us a great compliment that we are a very colorful studio. For where we are geographically, like we do have a lot of different students. And we've never really pointed that out. It's just been, you are welcome here. Right. And all of our staff, you know, again, we have a lot of Purdue students coming through. So our staff kind of, not recycles, but we cycle through staff. And we've had a lot of different colors, different ethnicities, different styles represented. So we kind of always just go with what comes to us, and we embrace that and we make it work. Right. So no, to answer your question, we aren't necessarily doing anything different, but I think Jerry could vouch for us. I think we've always just done a really good job of accepting everybody. It's
part of our culture that we have, that we welcome everyone. Part of our tagline, so Studio B is be happy, be inspired, be you. So be you is a part of, you know, we welcome all students, no matter what age, no matter what your background is, abilities. Yeah. So sorry, Jerry, I cut you off.
No, I love collaborating with you because I also think that by bringing somebody like me into their studio and seeing that I run an organization and the diverse staff that we have, colorful staff that we have, I think that what Brooke and Cristin, like, and I'm not saying bring me, I'm saying bring people of color, bring black people into your studio as educators, as people in positions that are of a higher level and that are not just teaching hip hop. Like hip hop is not like dance, and the impact on dance that Black people and people of color have provided have made dance what it is today.
It's so interwoven in every single style, genre, discipline.
And that, and let's say your area is, thanks Shannon, let's say your area does not have a lot of people that of color that are teachers or educators where you are. You might be in the suburbs. This is like what they were saying about online access. Hit up Alex Wong, hit up these other fantastic teachers on social media. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be through us. You just need to provide access and visibility.
Yeah.
One thing I'll talk more about it on Thursday.
One thing I will say is I come from a background of, like, just frankly, we were dirt poor. My mom was raising 3 kids. I didn't have access to studio training, which was part of my journey and my dream to own a dance studio so that I could provide that. And through my experience and wanting to give back to this community, we have provided dance lessons for free for area schools that tend to have a lower income, so that they can get exposure to schools. I also am really fond of the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and so we provide a scholarship to them. I've been getting in contact with the Boys and Girls Club to provide scholarship to students there, and so for me, it's about providing access. And so I want to make sure that we're eliminating the barriers. A lot of what Jerry is doing with Liberate, you know, reducing those barriers to access to dance.
And
Yeah.
I think that's
I tried to talk really fast.
that's such an important thing to remove the barriers, and thank you for doing that. It's 12:49. I wanted to just open the floor for final thoughts. Jerry, if you found that question, and leave our conversation in the way that you would like to.
It's all you guys. It's all you guys.
Yes. Okay. Okay. One last thing regarding our procedures. I've been in contact with the local health department to create a decision tree. And I think this is one of the most important things that I've done in all of this process is right now, if we get a student or staff member that tests positive or is in contact, what do we do? And I'm going to be posting that soon. I'm happy to share that with you all so that you can have your own decision tree within your studio, because it just reduces the panic in the moment of, oh my gosh, now
of
what?
me texting Brooke saying, what are we going to do if so-and-so,
Yeah.
like we had a student that contacted me and said, I am running a fever, so I'm going to go get a COVID test.
Yeah.
And what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah.
So, just, reach out to your local health department, reach out to your state health department. Neither one of ours are very helpful, just so you know.
Yep.
So they literally said to us, well, what's your plan? So, so Brooke put together a plan.
Right.
So if anything, just like think through all the definite possibilities and like what you would do in that situation, what works for you, and then kind of present that to the authorities and just make sure, you know, have all your chickens in a row, your ducks in a row, whatever, the best you can, because at this point, nobody really knows anything. We're just all kind of doing what we can.
Which is why this is so important.
This is so important.
Like, for us to, as a dance community, to stay together and help one another. It's huge.
Yeah. So we just want to thank Jerry and Liberate for reaching out and saying, hey, will you do this? And we were like, but we aren't experts. We don't really know much about this. But we just love like collaborating and sharing. We've been to Dance Teachers Summit consistently. We've been to Energize. And now, you know, this year we've got this free virtual experience. So we're just thrilled. So thank you
Jerry,
all.
And everyone at Liberate, everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm seeing some comments still come into the chat. Just so you know that this chat gets downloaded as a transcript. So even if we didn't address a question because you just sent it in, or a comment because you just sent it in, we hear you, we see you, and we'll make sure to address that whole group chat. I'll be sending that out with the recording.
Okay.
Cool. Great. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Just so you know, stick around in this room if you'd like to. We have next up our 5 minutes of colorful history. Today we're talking about the history of Vogue and ballroom culture, but it's not what you think. And then right after that, at 1 to 1:50, we have accessibility for abilities. So this is all in this room. I am not going to end this meeting. We're just going to stop recording, and stick around and we'll see you today. Thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you. You're the best. We love you, Brooke and Cristin.
Stay well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Levels with these kiddos, but it gives them an opportunity to still be social, still be active, still be out and about, but in a much smaller and much more controlled environment. Because I know as a parent, a big concern is sending my children to school with 1,000 other students and 5 days a week and, you know, all of that stuff. So we want to address that concern. And just a side note, a big thing for us is, what are the concerns? What are the needs of our community, and how can we serve? Because that's what we do. We serve our community. So what are ways that we can serve? And we feel like this is an opportunity that we could serve and also gain some revenue that we could be losing potentially for the reduced number of tuition enrollments for dance.
Yeah. So that's not fully like,
it's in development.
It's in development, but that could maybe spark an idea for you as well. Like Brooke said, she saw a studio owner share that. So like discussions like these are so awesome.
So important.
I will also say another income generator that we've used in the past before all of this was that we hosted birthday parties with coronavirus. We don't know what that will all look like or entail, but it's just finding like gaps in your schedule or in like your availability. If you have an instructor who's like, I'm available all day Saturday, every Saturday, we don't have a lot of classes on Saturdays, but we've been able to plug in birthday parties there. There's always the option of virtual birthday parties.
Yeah, I know there are studios that are doing it and are like killing it with either virtual camps or virtual birthday parties. We've not explored that, but yeah,
there's lots of options.
Lots
so
of
get
options.
Creative.
Those are all great suggestions.
And we'll also provide resources for all of this. I would love to, I'm going to talk to you guys after just to make sure we can organize it in a way that's clear, but I think there's such great ideas, and thank you for always giving credit for people that also come up with these ideas, because I think that's something that doesn't happen. And I think if we think about this collaboratively, like we take and we share from different people, that's how we all collectively move forward.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you for coming back on. You're the best.
Thank you.
I love you both so much.